Welcome to Bridge the World. My name is Hideyuki Yoshioka. You can call me Hide. In this program, I invite my friend, some guests who's working in cross-cultural situation. I ask them to share their perspective, insight, suggestion, how to work very well in this diverse community by bridging the culture. So today's guest is my friend Jennifer Shinkai. Yeah, she is professional coach, facilitator, and trainer. She's very brilliant and talented, authentic, and a reliable person I ever known.
Oh.
Thank you for coming, Jennifer.
Thank you so much for inviting me today. I'm glad to be reliable and to show up today, and hopefully we'll be authentic and share the highs and the lows of the challenges of bridging the world.
Exactly. Okay, so first of all, I would like you to talk about yourself, your background, your expertise, your experience. Yeah.
How long do we have?
Yeah, take your time.
Yeah.
I can edit.
Okay, good. Yeah, we'll need to be. So right now I'm living in Tokyo. I've been here since 1999. I'm working as a facilitator and a coach and doing some other things I might talk about later. But I'm originally from England, from a town in the north of England called Bury. It's near Manchester. It rains a lot.
I see.
Yeah, it's an old like industrial revolution town. It's kind of grim in the winter. So I love Tokyo summer. I hate Tokyo summer. I love Tokyo winter. Blue sky every day. Cold, crisp. So people sometimes say, "Why don't you go back to England?" It's like I can't do the winters in England anymore. But I also can't do the summers in Tokyo.
I see. Yeah.
Yeah. So I came to Japan after I graduated from university. I have a degree in English literature from Oxford University. So I read a lot of books, but didn't really know what to do. And I saw an advert in a newspaper because it was the 90s, and it said, travel to Japan, we'll pay for your flights, training here, be an English teacher in Japan. So kind of a very typical entry point into Japan. And I had a moment where it was like, should I go to Italy for 1 year or should I go to Japan for 1 year?
I see.
And I thought, I live in Europe, it's easy to go to Italy. I haven't been to Italy since 1998.
I see.
So since I came to Japan, it's always there. I see. And in 1999, and I was working in an English language school, and then I moved to the head office. And I think that was probably like the most Japanese work environment that I'd been in, ironically, in the English language school at the head office. I see. I worked there for a couple of years, and then I thought, I don't think there's anywhere for me to go in this organization. I wasn't sure what I was going to do in Japan. And then my boyfriend at the time said, let's get married to keep me in Japan. And that's when I became Mrs. Shinkai. And at that point, then I was working for a recruitment company, which is like another quite common, like go from English language teaching, working in recruitment, in sales. And I stayed with that company for 12 years, but was in a lot of different roles. So that also taught me a lot about the different parts of an organization, how to work with change. When I joined, we were like 25 people, privately owned. And when I left, we were a kogaisha, a subsidiary company of Japan, which is listed Japanese company. And we had all of these offices around Asia Pacific. So that was then in that role, I was working in marketing when I left the company. That was when I really got interested in cross-cultural communication. Because now, and diversity as well, it wasn't just about Japan and like the UK. We had offices in Singapore, Hong Kong, Korea, Australia, Thailand, and India. I feel like that's right. Vietnam. Sorry, I can't forget Vietnam. Is there anywhere else? No, that was it. So then suddenly, the complexity of the organization changed. But then in about 2015, 2016, I was feeling like, I don't know what I want to do here.
Yeah.
I was having quite a hard time at work with the team and the contents of the job. And I started to work with a coach. And then that's when I decided to retrain. In the recruitment company, I had been doing training. And that's when I decided, I want to do training and coaching. So then I retrained as a coach and I started my business from 2016. Yeah.
It's a long time.
Yeah, 9 years this year. So I have to do something next year for the 10-year anniversary.
I see. But you've been in Japan a very long time,
25
years.
Yeah.
And recently, what you very passionate to work on? I know you working on as a certified facilitator points of view, and recently you working on for Ikigai workshop, and most recently you are very passionate to do I'm a Remarkable workshop.
Yes.
Yeah, please tell me about your current work.
Yeah, so most of my clients are working in multinational companies, in international teams. I do a lot of work online across Asia Pacific, thanks to COVID, I think. And as a coach, I really want to work with teams who want to improve their relationships and improve their communications. And during the time when everything was online in COVID, I also took some systems coaching training, which is so fascinating, but it is all about the power of relationships and how we interact with each other. And I think that comes up so much in teams. So with a coaching approach, I use tools like points of view, which is a coaching game using metaphor. So that's one of the tools that I use. I talk a lot about Ikigai. I have my podcast because that comes up a lot in terms of, what do I want to learn, or how do I want to grow, or who do I want to spend my time with, or why am I here? Reconnecting purpose to every day. And then the I Am Remarkable workshop. I've got a workshop this afternoon, actually, after we finish tonight.
It's the virtual workshop.
Virtual workshop, yeah. I've been doing that for a couple of years now. I think I really struggled to find an Asia Pacific friendly time. So I finally found a session that Elvita, well, anyway, she's in Oita, thank you. She ran a workshop, so I was able to join it, and then I got trained as a facilitator. And I think what's really powerful about that, the content is all about just recognizing what you have achieved, what you've overcome, and what's remarkable or subarashi or special about you, but it's not about bragging.
I see.
It's based on your achievements. And of course, from, in Asia, it's really hard to say, this is what I did.
We were not willing to brag.
Not willing to brag, but, one of the key takeaways of the I Am Remarkable workshop is it's not bragging when it's based on facts. So looking at those pieces. And I just find it's always a pro bono workshop because we want to make it accessible to as many people as possible. And it's always really moving, really supportive. And I think what I wish for my participants is that, we just created this brave space together online with a bunch of strangers. You can do that in your other relationships, whether it's at work, with your family or your friends. We just have to be intentional and decide we're going to support each other. And then, be open to cheering people on.
I see. All right. Thank you very much. And also, I would like to tell about your running community. Even as we get into COVID pandemic, you could organize an online community for us to get engaged each other with each other that make March matter.
Yes.
Yeah, please tell me about it.
Yeah, make March matter kind of came to me in like a download in the shower. All the best ideas come. It's washing my hair. Yeah, you know, open the chakra, I don't know. And well, as you remember, it was like the end of February, and I'm sure the same happened to you. I know the same, and many other facilitators, coaches, and other people in small businesses, just everything got cancelled.
Yes, yes.
Everything. And we understood.
Yes.
Like, you can't judge the clients for it. There was so much fear and uncertainty. Like, it was a great experience of VUCA in real time. But I just, okay, I know I'm not alone in this, and I know I need to find some, like Ikigai, like some reason to get out of bed every morning, because I can't do nothing. Right? I need to make opportunities happen for me, and also I need to, because we were all, you know, safe, like trying to be like sheltering at home. Of course, we didn't have a lockdown in Japan as such, but encouraged not to go out. And so I had this idea, right, what we're going to do is we're going to meet on Monday mornings, we kind of make our plans for the week, and then we're going to have a Wednesday check-in, and then we're going to have a TGIF on Friday, and just talk about like what we did. And I like got like even the download of the branding, like what the brand would be like. And I called it Make March Matter because I thought COVID would last 1 month. It would be March. Let's make this make March Matter this 1 month, and then we'll be back to our regular lives. I was very wrong about the time zone, the time length of it. But I think I had the idea on February the 27th, something like that. And then the next day, was it Abe-san was the prime minister at the time? Yes. And he said the schools are all closed. And I was like, okay, I'm not going to be writing my book, which was my plan. I don't know what I'm going to be doing, but I'm still going to make this community. And so it's still going now, like 5 years on. It's shifted. We very quickly dropped the Wednesday meeting because nobody came. But it's like 400 people. I think active is
400 people.
400 people, but active is not 400 people. As in any Facebook community, there's a lot of lurkers. And what I really appreciate about it, because some Facebook groups can be toxic, right?
I understand.
Like a lot of judgment.
Yes.
Not nice comments, but thanks to members like you, it was really supportive. Very uplifting. We were able to share like our private challenges, our professional challenges. People were asking for, you know, do you know anyone who can help me with this? Like, I found out that a lot of members were also like buying each other's services, which was amazing, or like referring different people. So it was just such a positive space.
I see.
So I'm really proud of what we built. At the end of last year, though, the end of 2024, I felt like the world has changed. And maybe these Monday morning meetings and Friday afternoon meetings have run their course. And it was a really difficult decision. I took it to coaching. I took it to therapy. Like I had conversations about it. Like, what was I making it mean? And then I decided, like, how do I want this to be? Okay. I want to keep the group because the group is so supportive, but you talked about being reliable. Like I mostly went to every Monday morning and every Friday, or I found somebody to run it for 5 years. And I was like, I think it's time to transition out of this role.
Yeah, but you're really respectable. So I joined several times. We had a chance Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 3 times a week. You keep learning for 3 or 4 years.
The Wednesday we stopped quite early on. But the Monday and Friday,
But starting community is very easy, but keep running is very difficult. So how did you keep that passion to keep that community?
I think one thing was I made one decision and then I didn't change it. So for example, I didn't try to like update the format every time.
I see.
So, you know, we would always start with a pause from points of view, check in with our body, listen to a piece of music. How am I feeling today? Just slow down. Then we have a check-in. What's going on? Then, you know, we would just follow the same pattern. So as a facilitator, I didn't have to work so hard.
No.
You know, it was set. The pattern was set. I just have to show up.
In terms of designing.
Yeah. So the design was there. And also participants know what to expect. It was always like 1 hour. The time was fixed. So it was more just about, well, I realized so many times that for me and then also for people who joined, the energy at the beginning and the energy at the end of the hour was different.
I see.
So even when I didn't really feel like it, I would go. And then by the end, I would feel different. And many people shared that, like as members, like I came and I was like pretty tired or feeling a bit kind of crappy. But seeing all of your faces on Zoom like, changed it for me. So I think that helped.
I see. But you had to commit almost all time or opportunities, and you have to spend your time. We can decide if we go in, go out as we prefer, but you have to commit always. It's very, very hard work, I think.
Yeah, but I think I also was very well supported because as lifestyles changed a little bit and we were going out more, I would look at my schedule in advance and then I would say, I can't make these meetings. Who can step up? And so other people would run the meetings. I'm really grateful to, I think you ran a couple of meetings. Did you host?
Only once.
You host, yeah. And you were a guest speaker as well when we had guest speakers in the early times. But you know, a lot of people hosted, like as a drop-in host, that made a big difference as well. So, yeah.
Yes, I'd like to remind you, all our community people really appreciate too. Jennifer.
Aww,
yeah, with that community, we never have been here. Yes, really. Actually, that community saved us. Yeah.
It really did.
Yeah.
It really did. It really did. Like, and I remember just, you know, my husband saying, like, "Wow, look at you! Like, it's Monday morning. It's 8:30. You've got dressed. You've put some makeup on, and like you're starting. And it would have been really easy to just be like in pajamas all day and." I think it saved me for like having like mattering to other people. So it helped me to show up for other people, helped me a lot as well. So I'm very grateful. I wish you had the tissues. We said it might get emotional, but yeah, I think that's, and I think maybe one other thing, like for people who are watching, you know, community, if you can have the role of being someone who creates a space, don't overcomplicate it. Make it so it works for you. But people do love to join. And a lot of people are feeling, I wish there was a space like this, these types of people. Just make it. Like, I used to run lean in circles, same thing. This space didn't exist for me. So I made it. And then somebody will come. It's like the film, was it Field of Dreams? If you build it, they will come. And they did. And then even like I'm in a running club and I wanted to do more training on the stairs. So this was, I said, hey, I'm going to organize a session. And so this morning, 6 o'clock, 8 people, we're running up and down the stairs together. I'd never do it on my own. Those stairs are there. But because my friends and my running nakama are coming, and also because I committed, then I'm going to show up. Yeah. But if I can give another tip on this as well, what I found helpful, which I didn't do with Make March Matter, but I did with the running event, is to say, I'll commit for 6 weeks. And then I'm going to take a break, and I might start it again.
I see.
でもとりあえず, I don't know, I'm suddenly in Japanese. First of all, 6 weeks. Because if you say like, I'm going to do it forever,
I see.
it's too exhausting.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, so I think if people are like thinking, I wish in my workplace there was this type of group to exchange ideas about being a working parent or like being a foreigner in Japan or whatever interest group, if it doesn't exist and you think it's useful, you can start it. And it can be just 30-minute lunchtime, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, you're definitely remarkable.
Oh, thank you.
Well, let's talk about the cultural thing.
Yeah.
You have lots of experience for 25 years in Japan. How do you observe Japanese business culture, business custom, or communication culture? How do you characterize it? Can you share your honest observation?
Yeah, well, I think that I operate in a not very traditional Japanese culture because most of my clients are multinational companies rather than Japanese-owned companies. So they are foreign brands or foreign organizations that have an office in Japan. So already it's a kind of cultural hybrid.
I see, I see.
But as we know, there are many foreign capital companies that inside are also very domestic, dome-dome. Dome-dome. So like it's like the outside is foreign, but the inside is really Japanese. And I think I'm being quite indirect Japanese communication style and not really answering the question here. But I think if I can say one thing is about attitudes to risk.
I see.
I think that is really interesting and sort of gets under talked about. A lot of people will talk about how indirect Japanese culture is, or like how you need to work with the group. But I think the risk profile is really interesting. And how? Yes. So, in Japan, it's risky every day living in Japan.
Risky?
Risky. Well, you never know. Is the big earthquake coming now?
Yeah,
or maybe Godzilla. I don't know. But this is a land of natural disasters. And so when you put it in that context, it makes sense that let's organize and control everything that we can then.
I see.
Because there's too much which can be taken like this.
I see.
So it really makes sense from that perspective. And then I think that this, just the idea from let's try something new. Like, whoa, do we really want to invite an agent of chaos into? And just understanding that wanting to plan and control around risk, actually from an execution perspective, then you can get like a really smooth rollout of something but you just have to spend a lot of time thinking about what could go wrong, what could go right, what might happen if we do this. And that to people who don't come from the same risk profile is really frustrating and slow. And, I often just want to say, like, let's just try it and then see what happens. And that is not the way to navigate, because that's just saying your fear doesn't matter to me.
I see.
I think that the way to navigate it is to give time and space to the fear, and also to encourage time and space to the optimism. So, let's have 15, 20 minutes talking about what might go wrong. Let's just get it all out there. What are we worried about? What might we mess up? What have we not thought about? Like, let's go on that. And let's give time to what might go right.
I see.
And I think often with the risk conversation, it only focuses on what might go wrong. And we don't think about what are the risks if it goes right. Too many people come or something like that, right? So just bringing those two in balance, I think, can be very helpful.
I see. I understand. Yes, generally we would rather to make everything under control.
Yeah.
So you've been in Japan for 25 years, very long. I guess your observation about our cultural behavior was changed during the 25 years. Did you see any change of our cultural behaviors?
Yeah, that's a great question. Well, I think I've changed as well.
I see. You changed your perspective.
I've changed my perspective, but also like my roles have changed in terms of, you know, when I came, I was in the Eikaiwa industry, so you're meeting a certain type of person. Then I was working in the recruitment industry, so I was meeting different types of people. I think becoming a parent, then that shifted my perspective on life a lot too. My kids are now 15 and next week going to be 12. So, but I think maybe one thing I can say about that I noticed of a change from a parent's perspective, when my daughter was born and she went to hoikuen, which is daycare, at drop-off and pick-up, it was mostly mums. Hardly any dads.
I see.
So 14, 15 years ago.
Yeah.
When my son was born, so like 3 years later, really shifting. More dads are involved in pick-up and drop-off. And I think now, obviously I don't have many friends with little children around them, but I see on the mamachari, on the bicycle with the seat, often I see more dads and mums. But I think when it gets to later, like for the PTA, junior high school, elementary school, that generation is still very mum heavy, who's on the PTA. So I think that those gender roles are shifting slowly in Japan.
Slowly.
But I think that is driven from more young men want to be different types of dads. They don't want to be the same type of dads as their parents. And I think that as companies are looking at caregiver roles, right? So we have parental leave, of course, but also kaigo, so elder care leave. I think that is shifting the needs. But one thing about like culture in Japan, you know, people say, oh, it's so slow to change culture. And I was thinking that there's two examples. One is a national example, and then one is my personal experience of Japan can change culture very fast when it wants to. So think about lockdown, right? Digital transformation in Japan was thanks to there is an emergency. People in Japan can change really quickly and find a solution really fast when we have to.
I see.
Right? So I think that my view on like, oh, Japan is slow to change. I'm like, no, Japan can be really quick to change when there's a good enough reason. And I remember a previous company that I was working for, this was like around the time that I was thinking of leaving for my personal career reasons anyway. But just a couple of changes in who is fired and who is hired at the senior leadership level, you can change the culture of a company in 2 to 3 months with the right. Or I wasn't on that side. I didn't like the way that culture was going, but you can change an organization faster than you think. I'm not sure if that's answered my question, but I think that answered your question, sorry. But I think that idea of I came and I thought that Japan would never change, could never change. I think that there's a lot of change happening all the time, but people don't like to tell that story. It doesn't match.
Thank you. Can you highlight something positive aspect of Japan's culture trait?
なんだっけ?
Difficult?
Yeah, well, no, because I think I just take all the positive aspects like really for granted. And I think that happens when you're living in a country for a long time. You sort of forget. And because I haven't traveled, but what do I... It feels too lame to say, like, you know, that things work. But things do work. It's very reliable. And maybe it's about that kind of risk assessment. I love that, you know, the bus will come on time, like things work. And I take it for granted, but things work because people work hard to make them work. People take their jobs very seriously, very diligent, like, you know, doing the steps. It's about that risk aversion. It has like a shadow side as well, but I think that care that so many people take to do a good job is really wonderful to observe. It's wonderful to be like a part of. But I always worry, like, are you okay? You know, is it necessary to be like so perfect, so on it? Like, take a break. You don't need to be doing this at 10 o'clock. It's all right. We can do it tomorrow. So I think, like, with every cultural piece, there's a pro to it, and then there's a con to it. But I find Tokyo anyway, it's a really easy place to live. Yeah, really easy to live. Everything is available. I think because I speak Japanese, that opened up a little bit more. But yeah, apart from if you need to go to the bank or to a mobile phone shop, those are the two stress points for me. I hate going to the bank. But even now, like the Kuyak show, the ward office is pretty smooth, right? You know, you never go for a good reason, but it's it's there. I just think that people. I think what I appreciate too is how many like really creative and talented people that I know, and I just wish that sometimes some more of those like that inner diversity would be encouraged and could come out, because I think people have really fascinating stories and interests, and often I feel I only get to see one side of one person, and that feels like a waste. It feels mottainai to me. Yeah. But that's what I love about you, Hide, because you're very like, I do this and this and this and this and this. I can't put you in a box, right? There's not like one label for you. And I think there's so many people in Japan who are like you. And I want to celebrate that a little bit more. And
You've been long in Japan, and I guess consciously, unconsciously, you influenced by this culture. And as you mentioned earlier, you take it for granted what happens in Japan.
Yeah.
When you come back to England sometimes, do you think sometimes this kind of thing wouldn't happen in Japan?
All the time. All the time. Yeah, and some of it's good and some of it's bad. Like, I think England right now is really struggling. And I think, to be honest as well, I think Japan is starting to struggle. And maybe all of this wonderful service is going to become a memory because of, you know, population issues and like skilled labor challenge. But yeah, like sometimes, I guess one thing is I've never worked professionally in England.
I see.
So I came straight out of university. So actually all of my adult life has been in Japan, but my childhood was in the UK. So I think it would be interesting what I would be like as an adult in England if I lived there again.
I see.
But I think that, again, it's because I'm not living there and I go back and I'm kind of a tourist. So it is a superficial awareness. And of course, because I've never lived there as an adult, I never had to go to a bank or, you know, do adult things. So it's kind of childish, the differences that I notice. But like, it's just dirty, honestly. It's like, it's rubbish in the streets. There's, you know, in Japan, I feel like this is, I know people go on about like Japanese toilets, but it's a true thing. Like you can go to a toilet in anywhere and it will probably be okay.
Yeah.
And sometimes, you go to the toilet in England and you're like, I'm just going to hover. I don't want to touch anything. Like, and that's like that's in a department store or in like, in a shopping mall, something like that. So I remember my son had the biggest shock of his life when we went to Turkey on a holiday and he had to pay to go to the toilet.
Oh, I see.
You have to pay a tip.
Yeah.
And he was like, what? It's like taking for granted the human right to use a clean sanitary toilet. Like that's not a human right everywhere in the world, but I think in Japan, like that is held as something really important. And it's a great thing because we all need to go several times a day. That thing. But I think what I love when I go back to England that I don't get, and I think it might be a Tokyo thing, and I think it might be being like a foreigner thing. But in England, much more, I will talk to strangers and just have chats at bus stops or like just those random interactions. I think living in Tokyo, people don't have random interactions anyway, right? People don't talk to strangers on the train. If someone tries to talk to you on the train, that's the same as London, though, I think. I'm not from London, so it's different as well. But I live in Tokyo in the Shitamachi, so downtown area. I always talk about it's a human scale. There's not so many high-rise buildings, lots of old people, lots of little streets. It was one of the places that didn't get bombed in the Second World War. And the people are friendly.
I see.
And talk to you. So I do have those kind of interactions. And now I'm like in the community for 15 years. We lived there 15, 16 years. Maybe sometimes too many aisatsu, too many greetings. Like I just want to be, sometimes I want to be invisible.
And when you go to Osaka, so when you see Osaka Oba-chan, Osaka-chan everyone is very talkative, very intrusive.
Yes, maybe. So I think it might be the Tokyo thing as well. And I think just, because of the way that I look, people assume I don't speak Japanese. So it's quite rare, like should I engage this person in conversation? Maybe not.
Thank you very much. So as a professional, as a coach, trainer, facilitator who is involved in leadership development or skill development training in Japan, what do you think is most imminent trait, imminent behavior for Japanese to be improved or to change, to be flexed?
Right. So something within, like Japanese professionals who are working globally that would be useful to upgrade or upskill.
Because most of the Japanese seek for globalization. We think we're better to be more globalized in this diverse world. When do you observe the Japanese cultural behaviors and gradually it's changing? Because it changes. What do you think is the most imminent thing for us to change or flex?
Maybe it's actually like change the mindset about just I'm enough. Like as I am, what I bring to the table has value, and that my opinion and what I know about my market, I am the expert. Because I think a lot of people are going into, let's say, like a global call, and the focus is all on like, oh, I'm behind, I can't speak up in these meetings, like, and maybe one of the things that comes from that too is, it's kind of interesting, you know, Japan always talks about like, Japanese people are very focused on the group. But actually in that moment when you don't speak up, it's all about the ego.
I see.
I don't want to be embarrassed. I don't want to look stupid. It's not about the group, caring for the group. It's caring for yourself. Very, very, which is, you know, interesting to be aware of. And so one of the things that I've worked with some clients on is shifting your relationship with, because we talk about like, this becomes a really big piece about speaking up in global meetings, right? And what's your role as like the ambassador? And you're speaking on behalf of the group.
I see.
And this is actually the area that you are the expert in and nobody knows anything about. And that if you don't speak on behalf of your team or on behalf of your customers or to educate the people who don't know anything about the reality of what's happening on the ground and like filling in the gaps, then they're just going to carry on with all of their biases and all of their assumptions. And you're going to have to work with that, and your team's going to have to work with that. So I think actually maybe we can lean in a little bit more to the group responsibility.
I see.
And in those moments when people don't want to speak up, realize that that's all individual fear.
I see.
And your role is as like this, on behalf, and I've said that a lot, like it's on behalf of your customers, it's on behalf of your team. This is not about you getting visibility, I am remarkable. You know, this is not like I want to be on the center stage and that the senior leadership in Europe recognize who is this Jennifer Shinkai. It's like I have stakeholders in Japan who aren't in this meeting. How am I supporting them? And maybe like adapt that group perspective, and you are just the mouthpiece, might help people to have a different relationship with speaking up. What do you think as I share that?
Yeah, I used to think Japanese should make more own presence, personal presence, aside from being part of group. Being part of group is very good thing. We value group work, teamwork, team relationship. But meanwhile, actually, it's a lack of personal presence, and we should make ourselves more forward. But actually, I'm now thinking how to keep the balance of that 個人主義 and グループ主義 in our history, as we are influenced by other culture, particularly Western culture, we used to think we better copy or adapt other culture in terms of making own presence. But I think nowadays I think we need to find something good breaking point, something to bring about to keep that balance. We cannot be assimilated to other cultures. We don't have to do. And also we better change gradually a little bit. We found we should find some good point to keep that balance. But I'm still not sure which is good point to keep the balance.
And I think it's just like experimenting and testing it, because sometimes you'll behave in a certain way, and I've gone too far. Right, I've been so direct, or I've spoken like, wow, I'm really on the, and just having those moments of reflection to get it to balance out, I think is very important as well.
Personally, I have been making effort to make my presence, particularly in this global setting. I speak up positively, And I often am told you are unlike Japanese. And sometimes I'm told you are too much arrogant.
From what type of people are saying that? Like from other Japanese people or from foreigners?
By non-Japanese people.
Non-Japanese people,
people. But it sounds, as Japanese, you are too much expressive.
Right.
日本人のくせに。
Right.
But I'm not sure fairly, I'm not sure when I observe myself in very fair viewpoint, I'm not sure if I am too much expressive or not.
Yeah.
Or it might look too much expressive as Japanese.
There's like that bias that people have, like because you look like the way that you do, they expect you to behave in a certain way, and when you don't, they're like, "What?" Yeah, I think that comes up a lot. So if you looked a different way, you told them you were from a different country, then they'd be like, "Oh, that's entirely appropriate," right? But because you say, "No, I'm Japanese," and then, all right, fine.
Yes.
Oh, so hang on, I've read in all these books that Japanese people are like this and you're not. So sometimes it's about like, we know that those biases exist and just having the awareness of them. How do we use them? If people underestimate us, right? Yes. Or overestimate us can also happen. Yeah. It's good to know. I think one more point I'd like to make on this topic of like what's important, and I don't know if this is like for all Japanese professionals or just like my wish for Japan is to be like less complacent. Complacent, right? So I was saying like the things that we take for granted.
I see.
Like Japan is so super comfortable to live in for many people. And you can have an amazing career, lifestyle, being completely kokunai, right? Being completely within country. But there are challenges coming around our lifestyle because of the impact of the population crisis. And I wonder, actually my first shacho in Japan used to say, we need to have a good crisis feeling. I don't know what he translated it, but this was his English translation. He would always say, we need to have a good crisis feeling. And I think I don't get that sense of urgency that, what are we going to do? There's just a lot of people saying like, what are we going to do? But not as much action. And it's like, we're going to start seeing like services slipping away and different, like if there's, in Tokyo, I don't think we notice it as much yet. But I think in the inaka, in the countryside, like getting harder to get a doctor's appointment or like harder to get certain services, things are closing. And I'm just wondering how we can think differently about like, yes, this and maybe even my word there of like, it's the jinko mondai, right? The population problem. Can we shift it? It's a population opportunity, right? What do we do? If this is our reality, then we have to restructure our expectations or how we live our life. I don't know, it's not really coming out clearly, but I would just like people to maybe be a bit more hungry for change. We know it can happen fast when we put our mind to it. So to just go like, let's get on this. Let's not stop having more and more meetings about it, right? We know what we need to do. Or even if we don't know what we need to do, let's try something rather than trying to plan the perfect response, especially because these things are like taking generations. We have to start yesterday, today, tomorrow too late, right? So that's my...
if you have something you would like to put out about your information of your upcoming activity, future activity.
Yeah. I think one thing we haven't talked much about is my podcast.
Yeah.
So I have a podcast called Ikigai with Jennifer Shinkai. And I interview really different background people to talk about what they think about Ikigai or what it means to them to live a life filled with Ikigai. And in the podcast, I'm trying to give inspiration and ideas and maybe permission to explore something that you have been thinking, wouldn't it be great if I had a bit more of this in my life? And here's someone who has done something about that. And it's quite... there's so many different types of people. I've got people who worked in like blue chip companies, like very kind of traditional, like white collar job. I've interviewed a drag queen. I've interviewed a counselor. I've interviewed someone who left one of these big companies to move back to Kochi, to like her parents' hometown. People in I'm trying to work out who's the youngest and the oldest. I think in his 70s, maybe Koji-san, and he talks about bringing the Rugby World Cup to Japan. And like what I love in his interview is, and I've got a couple of people like this, like, he did this big project, or I have someone who's a former Olympic medal winner. Like, what do you do if you achieve something cool? What happens after? Often we have these kind of peaks and troughs in our life. Like, we do something really great and then it's finished. So then we have to like renegotiate with ourselves what's important, what matters. And I think that pattern is different to like this Western interpretation of Ikigai about like, what do you love? What are you good at? What does the world need? What can you be paid for? Which is not the Japanese interpretation, but more just about like, why do I matter? And how does the quality of my life feel? What do I want to learn? What am I looking forward to? Like those topics, kind of come up a lot in the podcast. So I hope people will check it out. It's on all your podcast players and on YouTube as well.
YouTube,
so
URL is here.
登録してください. Register please. Subscribe please. Like and subscribe. 5-star reviews only.
Yes, very interesting. So, you are passionate about Ikigai. What is your Ikigai?
I think living a life with variety.
I see.
So a bit like yourself. I'm like, maybe not quite as many things, but because you have so many different interests, but that's the same for me, I have my work as a facilitator and coach. I'm doing podcasting. I'm running different communities. I'm an artist. I'm literally running. And I think always having a sense of that there's more that I want to do, or like there's different things I want to do. I think that I'm not finished. I'm not done. Is my feeling of Ikigai. Like there's a reason for me still to be here. And there's a Dr. Inoue, I want to say Kazuma Inoue, Kazuya. Anyway, and he talks about 3 different types of Ikigai. So there's social Ikigai. So that might be like volunteering or things which are connected to other people, running communities, or maybe even your, like rakugo, right? It's, like that is like entertaining people, making people laugh. It has a like a social connection. I've forgotten how he calls the other one. Is it just personal Ikigai? I'm sorry, my brain has gone blank in this moment. But there's another type of Ikigai which is more just about yourself, individual Ikigai. I'm sorry, I've forgotten the wording right now. But that might be like your faith or exercise or something which just impacts you. So for me, that's a little bit like learning. It doesn't really impact other people if I like learn how to macrame with old t-shirts as an artist, right? It just doesn't impact anyone else. It's all about me. That's fine. And then his third type of Ikigai is antisocial Ikigai. Doesn't get talked about a lot, but I really love it because I think in the West, Ikigai is really painted as like this gorgeous, great thing. I see. So beautiful, live your life with purpose. Very good. But Inoue Sensei's work is, so antisocial Ikigai is like, I'm driven by greed, envy, competition, like
vanity.
Vanity, yeah, like I want to have like the best new bag and the fanciest car. I want to beat this salesperson. I want to be number one. Like that can be a driver for your life, and that's okay. It's all right to be driven by antisocial Ikigai. So I sort of want to also, like in the Ikigai workshops I do, like open up. It doesn't have to be all sunshine and roses. It's okay to be driven by competition. Now, in the long term, if that driving by competition brings out maybe too much of your shadow side and becomes like, I don't know, evil, maybe that's the conversation for therapy. But I think like just be open that this feeling of Ikigai can come in multiple different ways. And also it can, like for me, I've realized like, my Ikigai is always shifting. It's not a single point for me.
I understand.
And as I find out more things about the world, or I meet different people, or different events happen, different things resonate that make me feel that my life has meaning, or give me meaning as well.
I see. Sometimes finding my own Ikigai is very difficult, but even if we find our own Ikigai, embracing Ikigai, living in Ikigai is very difficult. This is my Ikigai, but I have to do this now. So how could we embrace Ikigai?
So, well, let me put the question back to you. So when you think about like what's your Ikigai that you're not embracing right now, what's coming up for you?
For example, before I founded my own company, I have been patient to work for the company. As an employee, it's very patient time. After I founded my own company, I embraced my Ikigai. Yeah, this is what I wanted to do. But it took time. It took time to reach out. Precisely, I was unable to what is my Ikigai. Precisely when I started my own business, I found that is Ikigai because I love music. I used to believe playing music is my Ikigai.
Right.
As a professional job. I wanted to be a professional musician, but I gave up on that dream. But after I founded my own company, I started my professional career as facilitator. I found facilitation has same aspect as with music, music. Yeah, playing music, composing music, and organizing concerts is like creating my own business. Organized facilitation. I was drama. I was drama. Drama. Role of drama is very similar to facilitator's role.
Set the rhythm.
Yeah.
Drive.
The
beat.
Yes.
Right. Yeah. Well, it sounds like there is the great hint, I think. Can you reimagine or reconceptualize where else can I do this? Because of course, like being a professional musician, it's really limited, right? Who can actually do that? Who can be successful? But what are the other things which can make you feel that same way, that same energy? And as you describe it, I think you really hit on what Mieko Kamiya talks about, which is Ikigai Kan. So Ikigai Kan is the feeling of Ikigai rather than the object of Ikigai. And for me as a coach, I feel like Ikigai Kan is more important. And Nick Kemp, who's been on my podcast a couple of times, has a great book about this as well. But this, like what you've described of like what it was like when you shifted into it, and like your whole body language changed.
Yes.
And I think that it's looking for those moments. And maybe just, you know, when whatever we're doing, if we're not feeling that experience of Ikigai, can in our daily life go, where might I create it? It might take some effort, is basically there. Or it might be effort, or it might be awareness. So Ken Mogi, who's written a lot about Ikigai, is a Japanese neuroscientist. Like he says, I have 100 types of Ikigai. You know, it's like the morning coffee, writing an article, going for a run. Like he has all these different things which bring a feeling of Ikigai to him. There's another researcher, Dr. Akihiro Hasegawa, and he's like, I think 100 is too much. You don't need that many. But finding something. And there's another perspective I want to share, which is a great check-in tool about Ikigai called the Ikigai 9. It was originally created by 3 Japanese researchers and is now also been validated in English. And the Ikigai 9 are 9 statements, which I can't remember off the top of my head, but I can send you later. But they ask you to say, as you know, today, how much do you agree with this? Like, how strongly do you agree? And some of the statements are things like, I believe that I matter to someone or something. I have, my life is mentally rich and fulfilled. Or I have room in my mind. There's these like 9 statements. And I think that can be a great way to sort of understand, maybe I'm just not learning anything at the moment. Like, I'm just being patient. I'm just waiting. I think I matter to my colleagues, but there's no growth in this role for me. So that feeling of Ikigai is not being met in your life.
I see.
So that's a helpful way to be quite like strategic, just to understand, like, because often in coaching, people say, I feel like something is missing. Or what's missing? Maybe it's how it's how you're feeling about life in general. Do you feel like positively about life in general? Is it how you're feeling connected or disconnected to other people? Or is it about what you think about the future? And those are great places, I think, to start with Ikigai.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
I want to also say that 4-part Venn diagram, whilst it's got nothing to do with Japan, is a great coaching tool for career coaching. So I don't think it's awful. It's worth taking, like, what do I love? What am I good at? What does the world need? What can I be paid for? But I think even if you hit that, one thing I noticed, many people, don't have anything that's in the middle, which means I don't have an Ikigai, which means I don't have a reason for my life, or my life has no value. Yeah, that's nonsense. Please take that away. You might just not have experienced the things that come together in that point, or maybe you never need to, and your life still matters.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Last question.
Yes.
Last question. This podcast title is Bridge the World. I guess you are very passionate to do something to bridge the world with culture. What do you think is needed for professionals like us to do to bridge the world, to make our working community better by bridging it? So bridging the culture, bridging the world.
I think what popped into my head as you asked that question was actually about like bridging yourself, if that makes sense.
I see.
So in order to bridge the world, I believe that we have to embrace and accept diversity, different opinions, different voices.
I see.
But first of all, like, how do we embrace and accept that in ourselves?
I see.
And that, you know, often people are saying, you know, part of me says this and part of me says that, right? When we have some kind of trouble or need to make a decision, but we can't make a decision, people will often say something like, well, one voice in my head and then the other voice in my head says this. So I think as professionals, first of all, like, navigating these two voices in our head.
I see.
Right? Looking at that internal diversity and then realizing like, oh, in all of these people in this room, they've also got all of these multiple voices in their heads. So, you know, maybe the bridge is like too simplistic a structure.
I see.
Right? That because it makes it feel like there's one road, but perhaps it's more a web.
I see.
Web of the world, like Spider-Man, I don't know. That there's not just one path. And maybe that's my thought, is that we just need to have multiple ways to get over the water.
I see.
Maybe it's a bridge, maybe it's like a ferry, kayak, on a horse, like swimming, whatever.
Yeah.
And then perhaps another thing is, if people are working in these international environments, really just ask yourself, like, what am I willing to do? Because maybe the truth is, you don't want to bridge the world. You're very happy where you are. And just maybe be honest to yourself, because it takes effort. You will have to adapt. The other people will have to adapt too. So it has to be like a relationship of adaptation. But like, do you really want to? And it brings me back to one of my very first experiences in Japan. Like in the first couple of years, I was a teacher trainer in the Eikaiwa, the language school. And I went to see a new teacher who was having a really hard time. And she said to me, she was so frustrated because I was talking to her because her school manager had complained to head office. And so I got sent in to like solve the problem. And she just said to me, oh, Jennifer Sensei, why can't they be more Western? And I was like, oh. And I said, you know, Sensei, like, why did you come to Japan? And she said, I wanted to experience Japanese culture. And I said, this is it. Like, what you're experiencing now is Japanese culture. That someone has complained about you, not spoken to you, talked to their manager, who's talked to their manager, who's talked to my manager, who's talked to me, and now I'm talking to you. You are now experiencing Japanese culture. And it's hard. And if you want to bridge the world, it takes effort and intention. So just make sure. Do I really want to bridge the world, or do I just want to like get a better salary? Because there will be like in my old job, we used to talk about the gaishikei tax. You know, the foreign capital company tax. So you get paid more working in a foreign capital company because you have to deal with all of this every day.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Very, very fantastic, profound discussion. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, thank you for being a great host. It was fun to talk to you today. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you today. Thank you, Jennifer. Thank you very much.
Thank you. どうも。お疲れ様です。Hi everyone, my name is Jennifer Shinkai. I'm the host of Ikigai with Jennifer Shinkai. It's a podcast and a YouTube channel all about Ikigai. It's great to listen to if you are thinking, something is missing in my life, but what is it? We have 3 seasons so far of really diverse guests with amazing backgrounds and also like very ordinary people who are just living a life that feels wonderful to them. So I hope it gives you some inspiration, some ideas, and maybe some permission of exploring something that the little voice in the back of your head has been, you know what, maybe you should try this, and see how it feels. I think the transitions in life are really interesting times to think about our Ikigai. What does life mean to us? How do I want to live my life? So I hope you'll come and check it out on various podcast players as well as on YouTube. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And 5-star reviews only, please. So I'll see you on the Ikigai with Jennifer Shinkai podcast. Thank you.